So this is the 9800 X3D. Literally brand new and never used, but no one cares about that anymore because apparently the 9850 X3D is coming out due to leaks and driver investigations and such showing this new CPU SKU that we haven't even heard about yet, but apparently it exists. For those looking for a high-end custom gaming experience, look no further than Falcon Northwest. Falcon Northwest has been building PCs made for gamers for over 30 years with a focus on a true high-end gaming experience. Custom cases available only through Falcon Northwest feature state-of-the-art testing and design to ensure that every component is performing at their best through thermal imaging and rigorous lab testing designed and overseen by the Falcon Northwest founder himself. With a complete lineup of systems ranging from small to large, every Falcon Northwest system includes a 3-year warranty policy and a year of 2-way overnight shipping coverage, providing the ultimate peace of mind. To see all that Falcon Northwest has to offer, follow the sponsored link in the description below. It's fine, it's solid. Anyway, 9850 X3D. This isn't the first time AMD's launched like 50 variants when it comes to their CPUs. I mean, we saw that with the 5000 series CPUs. So what we're seeing right now so far, this is coming to us from Allrack 29, which is another like leaker that's kind of been known to sort of leak stuff. But anyway, specifically on AMD's driver page is where this information is coming from, which is, now it's in French, by the way, and I love the fact that the page is no longer there, but however, I'm sure Phil can maybe do a little sleuthing and maybe find an old version of it or a photo of it. But the French page for AMD's driver page actually is what referenced the 9850 X3D. So what we were able to see based on that page alone is the fact that there was a clock bump from 5.2 gigahertz to 5.6 gigahertz. Now, one of the only things that really hold back the X3D CPUs is overall, they're still slower on the frequency than their non-X3D variants. So it's one of those things where it makes sense that over time, the process would improve, AMD would get better at making the stack 3D VRAM chips, and potentially through the process improving, get better clock speeds out of them due to either cherry picking, golden samples, or whatever. The question is gonna be, are they able to make enough of them to maybe potentially replace this SKU? Now the problem for me is that for a Ryzen 7 CPU, costing an MSRP still of $479 is a lot to swallow in terms of cost. And it's still not even the highest end SKU because on the X3D SKUs, you have 9900 X3D and 9950 X3D. And don't forget, we still have the rumored 9950 X3D X2 at 192 megabytes of L3V cache. I think it's 192, not 196, whatever. It's 190 something, which is a lot. It also costs a lot of cache. Apparently, it's gonna probably cost quite a bit. Anyway, I digress. Let's go back to the 9850 X3D. Now, right now, the pricing of 9800 X3D has been kind of not coming down over time. It still stays around the $479, but you can start to find it now at lower price points at various e-tailers and retailers periodically. Micro Center has had it for as low as $429. Micro Center's put together quite a few bundles with it. I've seen it on Amazon as low as $429. I mean, $50 off is a pretty good chunk, which makes me wonder if this part might slide into that $429 price point, and then the new CPU slides back into that $479. I don't think it would make a lot of sense for only a 400 megahertz bump, which is really the only difference that we can see between the 9850 X3D versus the 9800 X3D is the 400 megahertz boost clock bump versus the standard 5.2, so 5.6. I think it would be a hard sell to entice people to try and spend more than $479. I would put it easy. Let's say it's a $20 premium. That's $499, maybe even $30 premium, $509. I could see AMD trying that, but I think if you really want to earn more customers in a segment that you're already dominating, is throw them a bone here because it's not costing you anything more to make it. If you've just gotten better at the process and the cost is still the same to manufacture it, and you're just pushing a higher clock speed to it, then there's no reason why it should technically cost more other than the fact that it performs slightly better. So what you should do, in my opinion, is make sure you slide that in at the current price point, take the existing product, continue to manufacture it with the chips that obviously don't bin as high as the 5.6 gigahertz all-core or 5.6 gigahertz 1 and 2 core, and then slide the price point down for the existing product. Now you start to take even more market share away from Intel, which right now there's not a whole lot of market share of new products for Intel to even try and fight back with. So it's just like another nail in the coffin. So just kind of a quick video talking about this. It's kind of funny though that it's off the website now. It's not there anymore. It's almost like something got maybe accidentally triggered on that site and it wasn't supposed to be there. I bet you anything, if this CPU is going to exist, we're going to hear about it at CES. I've started seeing a lot of invites coming out from AMD regarding press conferences and such at CES. Lisa Su's going to be making another keynote. But I think right now we can all probably expect that to be about a bunch of AI slop that people don't really care about in the consumer segment. You know, nothing makes more sense than going to the Consumer Electronics Show and talking all about business to business, which is what CES has really turned into for many, many years, which is why we kind of stopped going, because there's no consumer aspect to the Consumer Electronics Show. It's just a big, giant industry circle jerk. Honestly, it's what it is. I hate to say that, but that's truly what it is. So, and not only that, consumers aren't even allowed to go to the Consumer Electronics Show. So that's why Computex is really where it's at when it comes to the PC mecca, if you will. But anyway, I just kind of want to put this out there. If you're right now, it's an interesting time for this leak because I've seen a lot of comments on some of the written sites, like Tom's Hardware's talked about it, WCCF Tech has talked about it, Tech Radar's talked about it, GPUZ's talked about it, Tech PowerUp's talked about it. It's like, I've seen a lot of comments in these articles saying, damn, I just bought a 9800X3D. Now, don't feel bad about that. I don't think you should feel bad if you just got one, because if you returned it, you might even have a restocking fee, like CPUs and such tend to carry restocking fees, which means you'll take a little bit of a hit on returning it on a product that's not out yet or even truly verified yet. Now, seeing it appear in the driver page as a referenced CPU on a driver is about as concrete of a leak as you can get. But until the official announcement happens from AMD and we know it's coming, I wouldn't run and return your thing. I also am not entirely sure if I would potentially hold off yet either if you're interested in building a gaming rig utilizing a 9800X3D. Most 9800X3Ds can easily get to 5.4. I've even seen some guys getting up to 5.5, 5.6 on some pretty mild overclocks. Because don't forget, these are overclockable now, which they weren't in the 7000 series. So I don't think the few extra megahertz, the 400 megahertz is going to make a huge difference. Now, if we were benchmarking like a 5090 against the 9800X3D and a 9850X3D, we might see a % or two more FPS on a 5090. I don't think it's going to translate to that type of uplift for most people. It's just, I think this is one of those things, and we've seen this quite a bit. This is when remember the 9900K and then the 9900KS came out, right? It was just a 200 megahertz bump up to like 6 gigahertz when it comes to, I don't think it was 6 gigahertz back then, but let's say like the 13900K, 13900KS, 1400K, and the KS, which was nicknamed Keep Spending because it was a couple 100 megahertz bump to hit that 6 gigahertz number. We know how that turned out for Intel, unfortunately, because it was pushing things way too far, which is why the degradation was happening. But it wasn't like a game changer of performance. It's not like, you know, you're looking at going from a 9800X3D to like performance of a 9900X3D with its dual CCDs. In fact, that would be lesser performance if you talk about the dual CCD hit. But it's just one of those instances where a manufacturer or a chip designer says, hey, we've improved the process, we're getting better yields, we're getting better binning now, we can bump this up a little bit safely. Now, another thing that seems to be a clue that they're just improving the process is the fact that they're getting 5.6 gigahertz instead of 5.2 at the same 120 watt TDP. So that sounds to me like a very nicely binned chip where you can get more frequency out of the same power, ASIC quality, all that stuff comes into play. So I just think it might end up being a low yield chip, meaning they may not have a ton of them, but when they're noticing that the process is improving and they can push the clocks, those that validate, why not turn that into its own SKU? So I think AMD really should drop the price of the 9800X3D down to $429, or maybe $459 even, and then $479 should be the price of this Halo SKU, if you will, because we all know that the single CCDs for gaming are still GOAT, and they always will be. All right, guys, there we go. Is this interesting to you? I wish the boxes would freaking stand. The problem is the CPU's on the front and it's just hollow in there. Whatever. Would you guys wait for a 9850X3D at the same price point, or would you just run out and buy a 9800X3D now? Because obviously with Christmas around the corner, I'm sure this CPU is on a lot of people's Christmas list, especially if you're running an older 7000 series CPU, because you can upgrade to the new stuff on old motherboards and still get all the functionality with a BIOS update. I'm kind of curious. I wouldn't know what to really recommend right now. I don't think I would recommend holding off entirely for the new SKU if you're ready to build and you're ready to buy now, because there's going to be theoretically a lot of holiday deals going around, especially with bundles if you're anywhere near a Micro Center. Obviously, the other side of the coin is the price of DDR5, which sucks because AM5 requires DDR5. And this is where Intel's starting to become sort of a value proposition again on stock that still exists on 13th and 14th gen, because you can buy motherboards that run DDR4 and still use those CPUs and have very, very minimal hit to your overall gaming experience. So it's kind of like through a happenstance, Intel became sort of relevant again. But relevance is in the eye of the beholder, right? So as consumers, you decide whether or not you would go that route. So I'm curious, comment down below. Would you wait for the new CPU? Would you just buy the current one now? Or are you not even in the market because pricing is so insane right now? All right, guys, thanks for watching. As always, we'll see you in the next one.